Hello everyone and welcome to 5 Minutes History. Today we're going to talk about the French Revolution, its causes, its consequences, and Napoleon. Starting off with some background information to keep in mind. Before the French Revolution broke out in 1789, France was an absolute monarchy, meaning the king made all the decisions and the people had no say in anything. France also used the system of the Ancien Regime, meaning there was a strictly hierarchical society with three estates. The first one being the clergy, estimated to make up for around 2 to 5% of the population. The second one being the nobility, making up around 2% of the population. And the third estate, or the peasantry, making up around 93 to 98% of the population. There are many causes of the French Revolution, which we can categorize in two categories: the long-term causes and the short-term causes or triggers. Some long-term causes were that the king maintained considerable authority. Second one being that the nobles enjoyed privileges, including low to no taxes, and being able to party all the time on behalf of the peasantry's tax money. The Roman Catholic Church also had an immense influence and used its power to support the monarchy. The population also identified themselves more with their region than their country. The years before the war, the population experienced poor harvests and therefore had food shortages, which led to poverty and starvation. France also had a huge financial debt as a result of continuous wars with Great Britain in the years before, including the Seven Years' War and the American Revolution. The nobility opposed the tax reforms, and therefore France was almost bankrupt. The Enlightenment also played a big role in the French Revolution. It gave new ideas about government, and the rights of citizens undermined the Ancien Regime. The short-term cause or trigger of the revolution was, as mentioned, by the long-term causes, that France was almost bankrupt and the nobility refused to accept tax reforms. This led to an emergency meeting of the Estates General. This is an assembly comprised of representatives of the three estates, namely the church, nobility, and the third estate or peasantry. Each estate had the same number of votes, so the nobility and the church could join forces to outvote the third estate. The third estate therefore demanded that voting should more fairly reflect the membership of the different classes. Now for the revolution itself. We can divide the revolution in three stages. The first stage is from 1789 till 1795, starting with the meeting of the Estates General in 1789, where the first and second estates refused to surrender their taxation privileges. Afterwards, the third estate left the Estates General and formed the National Assembly, a new form of government where they swore the tennis court oath, agreeing not to give up until a French constitution was established. French citizens in the center of Paris supported the new political movement. Violence broke out and crowds stormed the Bastille prison. We mark this point as the beginning of the French Revolution. Afterwards, the August Decrees, a series of new laws, and the Declaration of Man abolished the Ancien Regime. This meant no more feudal rights, no more privileges for nobles, and no more unequal taxation. A march of women stormed the palace of the king and demanded that Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette move from Versailles to Paris. In 1790, the civil constitution of the clergy was made. This meant that bishops and parish clergy were to be elected by state officials and that the clergy were to be paid by the church rather than the state. In 1791, Louis and his wife tried to flight because they were scared they were going to be put on trial, hence why they dressed as servants and tried to flee to the Austrian Netherlands or modern-day Belgium, since Marie Antoinette was a sister of the King of Austria. They were arrested 50 kilometers from the border in Varennes. In 1792, the French Revolutionary Wars began. This made France's neighbors, in particular Austria and Prussia, very nervous. The revolutionaries faced a serious threat from abroad. These last two events led to the rise of the radicals in France. After the flight to Varennes, the Jacobins, one of the leading radical groups, gained more influence. They even became more extreme. Once they had control over the convention, they established the Committee of Public Safety, led by Maximilien Robespierre. The convention decided to have a trial for Louis XVI, who was found guilty and sentenced to death. Robespierre set up a revolutionary tribunal in Paris to put on trial anyone suspected of being an enemy of the revolution. Whoever was found guilty, and Louis XVI and later also his wife, were sent to the guillotine. The period of Robespierre is marked as the Reign of Terror. The second stage found place from 1795 till 1799, after the Terror. The revolution pulled back a bit and another new constitution was put into place, this one giving a lot more power to the wealthy people. In order to balance power and avoid the dictatorship of one man or one group, the Directory was established. The third stage found place later in 1799 till 1815 and is often referred to as the Napoleonic period. We will learn more about the third stage and Napoleon in the next episode of 5 Minutes History. Thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something new today and see you on my next video.